do it again and try to lock in that number 2 seed?
Well, you know, I think there's one thing you need to understand is sometimes you take things, some people take things for granted because you've done it once on the road. They can show up at home and be easy. That ain't going to be the case at all. I mean, Marshall's been a really, really good team of late. Like I said, before we played up there, they're the one team that went into middle. They're the only team that's gone into middle this year and controlled that whole game. And middle has to hit a three-pointer in a tied game, 30 seconds to go to win that game. So that's their capabilities. Also, Marshall won at El Paso. Won at El Paso. I don't know if anybody's won at El Paso yet. Marshall's won there. So they've been very good. The other night, you know, we found a way to be pretty good ourselves on the road. That's never easy on the road anywhere. On senior night, makes it even more difficult. And, you know, we knew we were playing without Jared Steele, and but give our guys a lot of credit. You know, having Luke back added too, even though he maybe not as productive on stat sheet as some other games. Having his presence out there, he's someone they got to count for. His understanding, you know, how to move, mentality in that zone helps us a bunch. And as you guys saw, and Jared, you were there, we were really good in the guard positions. We were really good, and you know, made shots. When you make shots, the world goes round, and you know, it's kind of that simple. But everybody that played the other night thought Josh was really good, and you know, in transition for us. He had 3 or 4, I think it was 4 plays where he got it and made plays in transition. We had a little bit of advantage there with him, you know, based on some quickness that they put on him at different times. So we played really well, but again, this will be a totally different game. Naturally, yes, you'd rather play at home, you would on the road, but being back at home doesn't ensure anything for sure, but we'd rather be here. Our guys will be excited to play, and we know we're playing a good Marshall team.
Coach, when it comes down to Jerry's and Luke, how are they both feeling right now?
Well, you know, at least Luke played the other night, so having a chance, he just didn't play. We played him 33 minutes. There was 2 times he asked to be taken out, one just from a fatigue standpoint, and one of them he was just cramping. So, but just getting one game under his belt after being out and just not being out, you know, kind of what he had kind of zaps you for some energy. But getting a game under his belt and then refueling that body, and I hadn't seen him today yet. You know, yesterday was basically a recover day for most of those guys, but he came in and, you know, was a little sore from cramps, but he'll be fine. I expect him to be better the second game than he was the first game. And you asked about Jarius. Jarius will be, you know, it's probably, I can say this a little closer now, it's probably more of a game time decision with him come Saturday. I'll know a little more about that today, but he's getting closer as he plays Saturday. Like I say, and this is not coach's talk, it's just being real. We'll see if he can go any Saturday. I won't know that until probably later today.
With Jarius, even you know, if he's available, is there a situation where you know, you've already played Marshall and won without him, where you maybe try to save him and give him a little bit more rest, where conference tournament is next week, or is it you'd rather get him a couple minutes here if he is available?
You know, again, I think whenever he's available, we need to get him back playing, because he's been out for 2 weeks now. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks, correct? Yes, that's correct, 2 weeks. So you can be totally healed up and not be effective in any game being out that long. So as soon as we can get him back, we need to buy a few minutes, getting him back in some type of game conditioning and game feel as soon as we can.
Coach, you know, just looking ahead at the Conference USA tournament, you know, can you kind of talk about some things that you feel like are going to be a challenge for you guys and some things that you feel like you're going to do really well in the tournament?
Well, it's always a challenge to go win 3 in a row. I guess the last 3 tournaments, is that correct? Last 3 tournaments, because there's a year we didn't have a tournament. So in the last 4 years, we found a way to win 2 games each to get into the championship game. And everybody thinks, well, you got to find a way to win the championship game. Well, the first game you got to win is challenge is that first game. Then the next challenge is win that second game. And if you're able to get to the third game, then hey, that's all a plus. But you got to win that first one, and it's not always easy. I mean, you look at a lot of teams in this league, haven't even won a game in a tournament. And y'all can figure out good teams. You remember a good Middle Tennessee team about 4 years ago. I think they had 1 or 2 losses all year long in the league. One year, lose first game to a Southern Miss, who was at the bottom of the league. There's so much parity in our league now. There's just absolutely really no bad teams. I know Southern Miss right now, his record's not very good. And if they're playing without Stevenson, they're not as good. But if Stevenson's playing for them, they're capable of beating anybody any night. Jerry, you probably at the game. There was San Antonio's probably the next record-wise, not a good team. They played North Texas last night. It was a 4 and 5 point game all the way until the end. They kind of spurted out and hit a couple threes to spurt the game out. So what I'm trying to say is there's just no easy games. There's probably, you look at certain teams you rather play than not play. Everybody would have that scenario, but unfortunately you don't get that. You don't get that option. You're going to play the winners or whoever it is, and whoever wins that game, you've got them, and you know who is probably is in that next game. But that tournament's been, I guess there's been probably a different team in the finals every year of it but us, hasn't there? If I remember correctly. That's the one. That's 3 of the last 4 years, so it's been a different one every year. So, the Louisiana Techs haven't made it there. UAB's hadn't made it there forever. So those are all good, capable teams for sure.
Coach, I know you still have one more regular season game left, but speaking on the conference tournament, have you guys transitioned yet to the winner-go-home mentality?
No, we ain't got there yet now. Hey, unless we've been in that maybe mode for a long time. No. We're still in this season. We got one more game to complete this season right here. So last game Saturday, and you want to win every game, but it's your last game too. And good or bad, it does give us a number 2 seed, which probably means a little bit. Probably means a little bit for this team. Some people say you may be better finishing 3rd and playing a different team the first game. There's some merit to that too. The only problem is you have to play 4 games to win it. So we'll take our chances trying to win here tomorrow and trying to be at number 2 seed.
Coach, senior night coming up, Josh Davis, can you just talk about your relationship with him over these 4 years? How much it meant to you in this program?
Well, it's a senior night. We really don't have a real senior night because a lot of those guys already had senior night. But to answer your question about him, and you guys who've been around, Jared, how many years you been here?
2 and then some.
2, because we were changing about every year there for a while, weren't we? About every year, so you've made 2, a little over 2 in, huh? Well, what I'm trying to get to is you can see the maturity of him when he comes in these meetings, how he's changed as a person. Remember his first year here, he didn't get eligible until middle of January. That was the first Marshall game. And I think the biggest thing with him, there wasn't a lot of, and this ain't being negative, structure of understanding details in his personal life. The importance of being on time, the importance of, doing the little things that it takes. And to his credit, and his mother's credit. I mean, if you want to give a person a lot of credit for a lot of things, is he's got a terrific mother. And she's trusted us to hold him accountable. I think you'd ask Josh this question. Probably been nobody. I know there's been nobody in my career that's ran more at 6 a.m. than he has. Never fought it. Never fought it. Got up and handled whatever punishment it was. Never complained about it. I want him to hate it enough that he would never want to come back and do a 6 a.m. workout again. But never did get him to that point until this year. All that's gone to another level now. So much more accountability in his personal life. That's carried over to the court too. I think there's one thing you can say about his game. He's always been a electrifying athlete. When he first got in here, that ball came out of his hand and always said it looked like a boomerang. It was spinning all the wrong way. But I think we all would say now, I know I feel this way, I got total confidence in him shooting that basketball. He's turned into one of our best free throw shooters. Like I say, he always was a electrifying dunker and athlete, and getting in the lane, getting steals. Then on top of all that, it was his academics kept him from being eligible that first year and a half, or that first half a year, whatever it was. I think for him to come back, wanting to get that degree, and to see right now he's in position, he's whatever weeks it is now, 8 weeks away, 1st of March, isn't it? Less than that. Got spring break. You guys got that counted to the day, don't you? Probably 6 weeks. So with spring break and 1st of May, getting his degree. And a lot of guys, degree is not always the most important thing right now until you get older. That's for you guys too. As much as you want it, it'll become a lot more important the older you get. And for him to be able to hang in here and get this degree right now, that's something no one can ever take from him the rest of his life. So he's been a great young man to coach. He's a great person. He's always a pleasant young man. Does that always mean that he did some things with the urgency I want him to do it? Absolutely not. But all that has gotten better. But through all those hard times, he always was as a coach, he's one of those guys you just like him as a person. Just like him. And you guys around him as the media, you like interviewing him. He's a pleasant guy to talk to. And again, most of that comes from his mother. He's got a great mother.
Coach, I'm doing a story on Jamarion Sharp, so I wanted to ask you just a couple of questions about him. I know you talked about sort of the recruiting process, his story coming to Western, but when I sat down and talked to him Monday, he was talking about how one of the few offers he got in high school was from Western, but instead obviously went to JUCO so he could work on his game. Seeing what he did in junior college, when I talked to his JUCO coach about seeing the improvements he made and how he came to Western, bringing what he's brought to the table, just how impressed have you been with him this year, the progress he's made from the day he stepped on campus to where we are today?
Well, if you interviewed him, I think the one thing's probably a little bit more surprising to all of us. Understanding this, we hadn't been around him much for that year and a half once he went to JUCO because of COVID. We just weren't allowed to be there. I think the first thing that probably jumps out to all of us when he got in here in June, compared to where he was maybe 2 years before that, or, it was his junior year when we kind of started recruiting him, just his personality, how outgoing he is. That's the first thing that kind of jumps out as when he got here, man. He was an outgoing person. He was a great teammate. Everybody loved him. His game, we didn't know what to expect. Remember this in JUCO now. He didn't play 15, 18 minutes a game. I know at the national tournament, kind of the biggest game of the year for them. Go back and check out the stats, but I don't even think he played 6 or 8 minutes in the whole game. So there wasn't a lot of something you're going to say, well, this guy's going to be able to do this, because you never seen it much. But it didn't take long when he came in here in June to see some different things this guy has the ability to do if you put him in a situation to utilize it. I thought he had grown since I seen him. Always was big. But when we measured him, it was legit 7'5". And then between the lines, you know, a burst of quickness, be able to change directions as a big guy. Can't teach that. Great hands. Feel for the game was probably better than we anticipated. Everything that he needs and needed, only time's going to cure some of it. You know, the weight room is a part of his cure. First time he's really been in the weight room in his life. Able to put 20 pounds on him in the summertime. It all helped him. And again, it's the first time he's ever been in a situation where anybody's dependent on him. And that's not being negative, but where he's had any kind of hype at all. I mean, he's never had basically no hype as a player. So to see where he was and where he is versus where he can be is a whole lot higher than where he is. And I believe that with him. I think he's just kind of getting a good taste of it. And there's nothing more to have a good taste of success in the off season. You know, that's another motivation you got. You know, he never had no hype going into an off season in his life. Never done anything. Now he's going to go into this off season with quite a bit of hype and a whole lot of expectations from us, and I think from him now. I think he can see some things that may be possible out there. Now, that's good motivation. It's great motivation. And that's when players are made, from March to October. That's when real players are made. They ain't made from October to March. It's from March to October. You know, when you can be as selfish as you want. Eat all you want to eat as much as you want to eat. Get in the gym and, you know, shoot as many times you want to shoot it. And that's our challenge with him, is making sure in the off season that everything we do, you know, we approach it as a business, because it is a business, and that's all new for him. But he's a good young man, very coachable, very coachable. As we all know, that upside is there's a lot more with that upside yet. You know, we got to develop him a post game in there some, where he becomes some type of factor in there, and he can and he will. He can and he will. Those are things that in the off season that, you know, is trying to figure out some things with him. Utilize what he can do, not what he can't do. And keep developing his perimeter game. He's probably a better shooter than people thinks. He hadn't had an opportunity to do that yet. Kind of like a Charles Bassey. Charles didn't have no opportunity to do that as a young guy. But he got so he could step out and make a shot. Well, I hope with Jamar, we work on it still. We give him opportunity to develop that part of it, and that'll be a part of his game that people will be surprised as we keep moving forward to some of his other abilities.
You talk about, you know, the upside, within the upside that he has mentioned. One thing that his JUCO coach, Coach Stansbury, told me is when he succeeded in JUCO, everybody around him succeeded. So that really trickled down. Kind of touching on what you said about his personality, his work ethic. How much have you seen his play impact his teammates around him this season?
Well, I think the first impact he really has is just defensively. Hey, that's impactful, what he's been able to do. He's 2 or 3 blocks off being the leading shot blocker in the country today as a guy who's never played. I mean, he's just never played. I think he's 3 shots away, 3 shots back. So for a young guy that hadn't played, boy, that's just in that. And again, that's not something, yeah, if he gets it, great. If he doesn't get it, you know, that's something that I'm sure is on his mind some, but that's not going to affect him. His ability just defensively with his teammates. He's protecting that rim for them. You know, we're probably not we're not the most athletic team in the perimeter, in those wing spots sometimes. You know, people, at times I would love to isolate us and go one-on-one. Not quite as easy with Jamar. And it's made us have to adjust a little bit too. We have adjusted. I played more zone this year and probably played in many years. Adjusted some of our abilities, lack of depth, and some of his abilities. Because one thing he does around that rim, people account for him, and they're aware of him. And, sometimes mentally, he may not get a block shot cause of that, but he affects a lot more shots than he blocks by just being there.
Maybe one more, and we'll get Josh and Cam in here for you.
Kind of going back to the league, like you said, it's more balanced than it's ever been. The league in the past has been, successful when it comes to NCAA tournaments or when it's had shots against, Power 5. You look at your record against Power 5. I guess what case would you make for, the league being a two-bit league?
Hey.
It is changing in the future, but as of right now, in this league.
Listen, I've made a statement and talked about it for 2 or 3 different years. When I think, we can just go back to last year with our team, what that team did in COVID, and understanding we lose 3 conference games, 2 of them's on that back night. After you beat somebody on Friday night, you play them again on Saturday night. We talked about the wins we had. We're the only team in so-called, they talk about it lots of times being the best league in America, SEC. Only team able to go in there and win on a team they had. It's those other good wins we had. But all that's been documented. What's been bad so much is one loss in this league, one loss on the road can absolutely kill you. UAB's had a great season. Probably if they don't win the tournament, them losing 3 games on the road, they lost 3 games in a row, be tough to overcome. And that's what's kind of frustrating about the league, because it is good from top to bottom. Anyone in this league can beat you. And that's been proven success. Whoever's won that league, they've gone and won the first game in the last 4 years. There's been a team that's won a league, have gone and won a game in the NCAA tournament, everybody except Old Dominion. Is that correct? Marshall beat a good Wichita State team that year. That's a year we got beat by Marshall in that championship game. Then next year, Old Dominion and North Florida last year beats a really good Purdue team. Then you look at the success in the non-conference. Team, we've won some games against really good teams. Like you just said, we're 11-9 against the Power 5, some really good teams. You'll find out a lot of those games are on the road too. We don't get those opportunities consistently at home. So it is a really good league. I've always said it's the best one-bid league team in America. Does it take, can your second team take a 6th or 7th or 8th place team out of SEC or Big Ten? No, for sure we think they're good enough. But again, don't get me talking about that and all that, because it's things everywhere.